I welcome you to this Defence and Aerospace Roundtable organized by Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry jointly with SAS Partners. To start off today's proceedings, I would now like to request Mr. A.R.R.M. Arun, President of the Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, to deliver the welcome remarks, please. Mr. Arun, if I may request you to unmute yourself, please.
Am I audible, Vinod?
Yes, please.
Vice Admiral Mr. S.R. Sharma, Chief of Material Indian, members of our Defence Forces, distinguished speakers of today's panel discussion, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, Vanakkam. Wishing each of you a very good afternoon. On behalf of SICCI, it is my great pleasure to welcome Mr. S.R. Sharma, Chief of Material, Integrated Headquarters, Indian Navy, New Delhi, to this event. We would like to appreciate him spending time with us today to address this important event. I would also like to welcome the distinguished speakers and also appreciate their partnering with SICCI in organizing today's event. I would also like to welcome the entire naval team and all participants today. When we look at Tamil Nadu is known to be one of the most advanced, industrially progressive, and competitive states of India. With a diversified industrial base, strong fundamentals, and above all, a well-educated and skilled population, the state is certainly a leader in our country. It has pioneered a number of crucial industrial sectors, such as automotive, leather and textiles, information technology, and healthcare, among others as well. Tamil Nadu has the largest number of factories and provides the largest employment in industry amongst all states in India. It is in this context that it would make logical sense for this strategic state of Tamil Nadu to look at defense manufacturing as its next growth engine. This is especially considering the draft Defense Acquisition Procedure 2020, DAP 2020, the draft Defense Production and Export Promotion Policy 2020, were jointly announced by the Department of Defense recently. As you are all aware, India's defense and aerospace market is among the most attractive globally. Knowing this is why the government of Tamil Nadu is keen to leverage this advantage to promote investments in the sector. The Defence and Aerospace Policy 2019 of Tamil Nadu also provides the needed incentives and measures to develop a strong domestic capability in defense, to give greater impetus for economic growth, skilled job creation, and to support growth of domestic manufacturers, importantly, the MSME segment as well. When we look at the Indian Navy, as you are all aware, our Navy is one of the largest navies in the world and the most capable in this geographical region. Today, our Navy has a variety of classes of ships and submarines, much of it being made in India. The indigenous warship building commenced by the Navy during the mid-60s has enabled our country to achieve this high level of self-reliance in shipbuilding, ship design, shipbuilding, submarine construction, and also in a wide range of naval equipment and machinery through our shipyards, PSUs, and private industries. The next 5 years will see considerable change in the dynamics of this industry. The results of liberalization and proactive policy decisions by the government, especially during the last 2 years, are beginning to bear fruit and will gather momentum as decisions are executed. Therefore, the micro, small, and medium enterprises sector, which has emerged as a highly vibrant and dynamic sector of the Indian economy over the last 5 decades, needs to understand this and integrate themselves into the supply chain of national and international defense majors. In this way, we will certainly be able to reduce our dependence on foreign supplies. This is also to gain a foothold in the international aerospace and defense market that our MSMEs have to be paying attention to. Within SICCI, it is in this context that we find today's event extremely timely. SICCI would like to commend our Navy for being proactive and for choosing to interact with industry in this region. We hope that this good beginning is sustained and regular interactions such as these are consistently moved forward upon. SICCI will be doing its part in ensuring that this good venture certainly continues. I would like to commend all the participants for their focus in the sector, and I assure you of the support of SICCI in promoting defense and aerospace manufacturing in our state. SICCI has always advocated for the indigenization of the defense and aerospace industry in our nation, with a specific focus on Tamil Nadu, through our various engagements and conferences with the defense forces. SICCI is committed to the establishment of the defense corridor in the state, and we strongly feel that the industry in this region should not miss this unique opportunity to manufacture for and supply to the world's most profitable defense market. Chennai, which already possesses inherent strengths in automotive manufacturing, this scaling to defense manufacturing would certainly be the next logical step. I would like to assure you that we would continue to engage with our defense forces and host similar interactions in the days to come. We hope to host the next interaction in a hybrid mode during February of next year. I would like to take this opportunity to thank SAS Partners for their support and helping release the knowledge report that we have put together. With these few words, I would like to welcome each of you once again and wish you a fruitful while intellectually enriching learning experience today. In closing, I would like to add that SICCI greatly appreciates the contribution of our defense forces that each member has been providing for our country. This includes each of their family members as well. It is with this in mind that we have approved an open invitation to any of our defense force members, as well as their immediate family members, to any of our programs for perpetuity. With these few words, welcome you again to today's event and looking forward to each of you continuing to partner with us as we move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, President, for warm words of welcome. We now move on to the session. The first session, the inaugural session, is all about demystifying the recent policies that the central government had released and how it impacts the defense and aerospace sector. So we move on, and it is with pleasure that I would like to invite our chief guest for the day, Vice Admiral S.R. Sarma, AVSM, PSM, the Chief of Material, Indian Navy, to deliver the chief guest address. Sir, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Sri Muruganandam, Principal Secretary, Industries Department, Government of Tamil Nadu. Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Managing Director, CEO, Guidance. Sri Arun, President SICCI. Commodore Ashok Kithan, Retired Head, L&T Shipbuilding. Colonel Kuber, Head EY. Sri Amburajan, President Tamil Nadu Small and Tiny Industries Association. Sri Ilangovan, Head Defense. Tamil Nadu Industrial Development Corporation, industry captains, participants, ladies and gentlemen. A very good afternoon to all of you. At the outset, I would like to appreciate the efforts of SICCI, SAS Partners and Guidance for hosting this webinar session on defense manufacturing in Tamil Nadu, emerging opportunities through the DAP 2020, an aptly selected topic amid the present backdrop of challenging fiscal environment due to COVID-19 pandemic. I am indeed honored to have been given this opportunity to speak to you all. The webinar aims to showcase Tamil Nadu as an investment destination for defense and aerospace industry, sharing of experiences, aspects, and expectations from all the stakeholders from different regions. All of us present in this forum would well appreciate the human efforts of the government in promoting Make in India with high impetus accorded in bringing in path-breaking initiatives to transform the country to Atmanirbhar Bharat. The Ministry of Defence in particular has launched numerous schemes which are primarily aimed at reducing imports, promoting self-reliance in defence manufacturing sector, and encouraging MSMEs to adopt to new technologies. The Defence Acquisition Procedure 20T0 promulgated by the Ministry of Defence recently is effective from 1st of October 2020. This document focuses on ease of doing business to encourage foreign manufacturers to set up manufacturing entities in the defense industrial corridors established in the country. Chapter 3 of DAP 2020 provides a focused and structured approach with significant thrust to development of indigenous design, development, and production capabilities in the country, and introduces the concept of Make 3, which is aimed at manufacturing in India as import substitution for product support of systems equipment by indigenous design and development. This is one of the enabling scheme which can be used by the Indian industry to imbibe and fast track absorption of various technologies, whether it is software, hardware, design, manufacturing, systems engineering, systems design, etc. by industries through TOTs and joint ventures. The self-reliance through indigenization, the vision of Indian Navy since early 1960s, has always held the integration of domestic industry with the Navy's shipbuilding program and equipment development as the most vital component. Towards this, the Indian Navy's maritime doctrine, vision document, and the maritime strategy provide the intellectual underpinning and framework for its force planning. In all these documents, indigenization and self-reliance has been a common and a dominant theme. Further, to bring our industry and academia on board, our future requirements of niche technologies and indigenization have been broadly spelled out in various documents such as Swavalamban, the Indian Navy Indigenization Plan 2015 to 2030, Naval Aviation Indigenization Roadmap 2017 to 2022, and Technological Perspective Capability Roadmap 2018. Through these documents, which are available in the open domain, Indian Navy endeavors to enable the industry and research establishments to plan and align their investments and R&D efforts to meet our future requirements. It is important to note that the Navy's role and responsibilities have expanded significantly over the years in response to changing geo-economic and geostrategic circumstances. These roles necessitate a wide inventory of state-of-the-art weapons, sensors, and systems for naval platforms that cater to India's maritime security needs, as well as provide necessary assistance to our friendly foreign countries in the Indian Ocean region. Warfighting platforms are supported by the niche technologies, which is a very specialized domain. Amalgamation of technologies in the domain of warfare is the need of the hour, the expertise available with the academia and industry, which can play a pivotal role in supporting the armed forces in acquiring these latest technologies. I am confident that this webinar discussions would act as a springboard to strengthen the relationship between our Indian industries and the Indian Navy, and would be a step in the right direction to further our government's initiative under Make in India. It's a matter of pride that with active participation of our industry, DRDO, and academia, indigenous content of 90% has been achieved under the float category of equipment and material used for the ship construction. Similarly, approximately 65% under the move category has been achieved. However, our indigenous production under fight category, which primarily comprises of weapons and sensors, is presently pegged at close to 45%. I see this gap under the move and fight categories as an opportunity for the Indian industry to leverage and participate actively to increase our indigenous content. We need to continue our efforts to find solutions to upgrade the equipments and systems of existing technologies, and also focus our work on new developing and inducting new technologies. Indigenous development of high-end technology, their translation into defense hardware, induction into the service with standardization is no mean task. It goes without saying that the process will require many challenges to be overcome, not only by the designers and manufacturers, but also by way of refinements and expediting our procurement process. To synergize the efforts of various stakeholders in the process of indigenization, Indian Navy has invested considerably in ensuring a sound structural support by creating organizations like Directorate of Indigenization at Naval Headquarters, indigenization units at the field level, and Weapon and Electronic Systems Engineering Establishment at Delhi. I would urge the industry to engage with these organizations for any queries, assistance related to the requirements of the Indian Navy and the process and procedures envisaged in the indigenization development. The details of indigenization organization of the Indian Navy is also available in the open domain on the Indian Navy web portal on the internet. Indian Navy continues to strive to induct state-of-the-art and niche technologies for marine applications on board ships and submarines. Few examples to quote are the autonomous surface vessel for mine countermeasure role, high endurance autonomous underwater vessels for anti-submarine warfare operations, etc., being progressed under Make 2 category. Such projects are aimed at innovative technology development for autonomous and precise navigation, development of high endurance batteries or source of power, technology to support command, control and communication, weapons and sensors payloads to support the operational requirements, and platform integration system to support autonomous operations. In this context, the theme for today's webinar is significant and appropriate. However, the most important point to be considered here is about our readiness for the new era and our ability to leverage the opportunities and leapfrog into being a global supplier of quality military products. I also would like to add that while our MSMEs in the country, some of them are outstanding, but one area which possibly requires a focus is the systems engineering, systems design, and system integration, or rather MSMEs who can act as a system integrators for the military systems, I think would possibly be the key in leapfrogging into this particular area and also to have a global presence. I am sure that today's deliberations will yield rich takeaways for the stakeholders and provide key inputs for converting uncertainties of today into opportunities for tomorrow, exchange of ideas to strengthen indigenous defense manufacturing in a big way. With this, I wish the organizers and the participants all the very best and wish you all a happy, safe, productive times ahead. Thank you very much and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir, for your thought-provoking and insightful address. We will now move on to the next speaker. However, before I invite Colonel Dr. Sri Ramesh Narayanan to speak, I would like to inform the participants that the Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, jointly with SAS Partners, have put together a report on defense and the aerospace sector today. So it is my privilege to request Mr. A.R.M. Arun, our president, to say a few words and release the report. Mr. Arun, please.
Can I request for another 5 minutes?
Sure. I would now like to request Colonel Dr. Sri Ramesh Narayanan, the business head, Defence and Railways of Pricol Engineering Industries Limited, to share his thoughts. Special address, theme address by Colonel Dr. Sri Ramesh Narayanan. Over to you, Dr. Narayanan, please.
Vice Admiral S.R. Sharma, AVSM, VSM, Chief of Imperial Indian Navy, Dr. Neeraj Mittal, MD and CEO, Guidance Tamil Nadu, esteemed colleagues and dear friends, a warm good afternoon. I feel privileged to give the theme address to this August gathering on a relevant subject of emerging opportunities through the Defence DAP 2020, which will have a very huge impact in the defense manufacturing sector. We in Pricol have been in the defense industry for the past 25 years and have seen the changing landscapes from the yesteryears where the defense manufacturing was plagued with procedural hassles, licenses, lack of technology, funding, know-how, and lack of information, and you can add on to this. All these have been changed with the opening of the floodgates of FDI in 2014 and subsequently the MSME ED Act, DPP 2016, offset guidelines, the Make in India theme, and the Atmanirbhar Bharat thrust. This clearly shows that the government of India and its seriousness towards the defense manufacturing sector and the associated opportunities along with it, which comes to the MSMEs. As per the Virendra Singh Committee report, more than 80% of the components and sub-assemblies are being manufactured by the MSMEs. There are around 6,000 MSMEs across the country with a workforce of almost 11 lakhs. So it is very clear that they are an important cog in the wheel. In the DPP 2016, the indigenous content requirement was increased to 40%, which invariably helped the MSME increase their pie. The MSME Act stipulates that the government department source 20% of their annual procurement through MSME. The promulgation of 101 negative item list by the government very recently in the month of August also gives us impetus for the MSME to come into the fore, and also for the defense industry as a whole to grow up. In spite of all these GOI board initiatives, there is still a dire need of level playing field to the MSMEs due to the following issues. We still are with the reprehensive procedures which are very old and still not come to the latest standards which are required by the industry. One example would be we are still dependent on the GOST standards, and we don't even think about the IS standards. And getting approval from GOST to IS standard itself takes a huge amount of time and effort. The finances for MSME is a big pain. With the present pandemic, you will also realize that almost 40%, there was a report where they say that the 40% of MSME may close their defense manufacturing shops. The permanence of order or a continuous order for a product which you have developed yourself is another one area which is plaguing us for a long and is a perennial problem till date. Still, there is a lack of information and lot of lacunas in the system. The skill set of workers required for the defense industry is totally different, and it requires a continuous training which is not available in the run-of-the-mill shops. The testing of the products, the test procedures, and the quality approvals requires, it's a very lengthy process and also requires changing this thing to the current standards. The tax structures are still very high. If there need to be a boost, we need to look into this particular thing also. Associated with this is the high R&D cost which is required for developing a particular product, and the low volumes which are associated with it, and not even knowing whether I will continue with that particular order or not. So, however, irrespective of particular things, government coming up with a DAP, draft DAP 2020, within 4 years of publishing DPP, gives us a very clear signal that they are very serious in this particular matter, and they really want that the MSME participation and the defense industry as a whole should participate in good strength. The DAPP also has got certain salient points like increased indigenous content, innovation as a new category has been added, the offset policy has been revamped, the project not exceeding till 100 crores are earmarked for MSME, the IDEX challenges, the TDF scheme, indigenous effort at various levels at the Army, Navy and the Air Force level, which has come till the unit level, the post-contractual management, and these are certain new things which have come in and which really augurs well for the industry and the MSME as such. I am very sure these particular points are going to be dwelled in detail by the various speakers who are going to come after this. But I also want to bring out that this is a continuous process. So these informal meets or the formal meetings like what SICCI has done will bring in various stakeholders, will bring in a new thought process, bring in the ground realities and the problem being faced by them. And I also like to bring out that the points which have been brought here may be collated and brought to the notice of all the stakeholders so that this process can be refined over a period of years, and over a period of this particular action will help us in improving the system day by day. I would also like to end my address by putting the following point in your minds for pondering. Can we bring in GEM, that the government e-market, as a single source buying of defense items? Can we bring in a single window system for all defense related issues for all the three forces? Do we need to look into the capability and competency of the industry instead of the equipment oriented issue? Today, when we go to the people, they said, this is my equipment, this is my problem. But the industry works on competency basis. Now, there is a gap between these two. So if I am making a sensor, I can very well make a sensor for any of the equipments. So do we need to change from the equipment oriented issues to competency based issues? And is there any way there is a mechanism for addressing the various procedural issues at the ground level which keeps on cropping up, and how to address that in a speedy manner so the system becomes much more efficient? And how do we get this startup who can be providing the solutions and a MSME who can be the manufacturing agency, how we can bring the synergy between these two so that this will help us as we go forward in achieving the actual Atmanirbhar, which the PM vision is all about. And with this, I would like to conclude my address. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Dr. Sriram Vishnarayanan, for your practical insights and your words. I now request Mr. A.R. Aramaru, President, Southern India Chamber of Commerce, to release the knowledge paper, Indian Defence and Aerospace Industry Outlook, by SICCI, SAS Partners, and Sugosha Adversary. President, please.
Vinod, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I take pleasure in releasing this report, which was put together by SICCI as well as SAS Partners. We would certainly like to thank SAS Partners for assisting us with this process. Let me show the report to you. This report will be shared with the respective government departments, both at the state level as well as the central level. It will, of course, be shared with our three defense forces. Please feel free to reach us if you need a specific copy. We'll also make it available to all participants of today. Thank you.
Thank you, President. I would now like to move on to the next speaker, Dr. Neeraj Mittal, the IAS, the MD and CEO of Guidance, Tamil Nadu Government of India. Unfortunately, Dr. Mittal could not join us owing to a few government imperatives. So Dr. Mittal has sent us his recorded comments, and we would play his recordings outlining the opportunities that are there in Tamil Nadu and how Tamil Nadu government has created the right policy initiatives and the ecosystem for defense manufacturing in the state.
Dear friends, welcome to this presentation on the abundant opportunities which await you in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is a state which has grown to the second largest economy in the world. It captures almost 8% of the national GDP. Its GDP is equivalent to about 46th largest economy in the world. Has a high urbanization rate of over 50%. Tamil Nadu state is connected very well to the rest of the world through ports and airports. It is highly industrialized and home to 74 companies. As a company, one looks at power as a critical input, and we are surplus in power. We are in a position in renewable power and in providing good quality human labor. If you look at the infrastructure, as I said earlier, we have 4 international airports, 2 domestic airports, 4 large seaports, and a healthy internet connectivity. Tamil Nadu is well connected by airports, seaports, roads, and internet connectivity. We have about 14.8 terabits per second bandwidth landing at Tuticorin and at Chennai. The state has a very healthy industrial policy with capital subsidy given to most investments, and then a special purpose package which is sanctioned for any investments over 500 crores. We also provide for stamp duty concession, a greening support towards environmental protection, an electricity tax exemption, training subsidy for men and women, and in selective cases, a payroll subsidy is also provided. We also provide for land allotment concessions, especially the SIPCOT land and in southern districts. The industrial development in Tamil Nadu has been very widespread, and as you can see, it is spread right from the northern part to the southern part of the state. We have 93 industrial clusters comprising of government industrial parks, private industrial parks, special economic zones, and SIDCO parks. A lot of industrial estates in and around Chennai are very close to the airport, and that area has seen a lot of industrial growth and development. Similarly, the next round of growth is happening around Hosur, Bargur, Coimbatore industrial belt. The state also excels in ease of doing business and improving regulatory compliance burden. The state boasts of a very good single window portal, which is now being upgraded from offering 36 services to roughly another 200 services, which will make the entire process electronic. There are a lot of initiatives which have been taken, including elimination of renewal requirements, which imply that the businesses can go on to do their work without worrying about compliance burden. We have a very good state and district business reform action plan to simplify business processes at all levels across the state. The state has pioneered into launching something called BizBuddy, which is an electronic help portal for all the industries specifically. Any help request which is submitted to this portal is committed to be solved within 30 days. In recent times, almost 75 requests have been completely solved with a reduction of 80% in the processing time. Many other incentives have been taken in the state, and we are continuing to take them to ensure that industries can do business seamlessly in the state. Guidance is a custodian of enabling business processes through a single window portal, which actually covers all clearances right from obtaining land, obtaining construction permits, no objection certificates, electrical inspectorate, pollution control board approvals, and trade licenses as well. The BizBuddy portal has an inbuilt escalation matrix. It allows for SMS and email notifications, real online tracker, and a management information system for monitoring all the grievances across all the departments and officers in the state. The major focus sectors of the state comprise of automobile and auto component sector. Tamil Nadu stands apart from being a leader in this sector, with about 35% of the India's auto component production happening here. One car in 20 seconds is produced in Tamil Nadu, and one two-wheeler is produced every 6 seconds. We are the largest tire manufacturer in the country, with multiple R&D training centers here. As you can see, we have all the large big names as our partners in the state, including Daimler, Hyundai, PSA, MRF, Renault, etc. The other sector which the state is very well equipped to support is the electronics and hardware sector, and we rank the second in the entire country. We have 16% of the national production, and we export roughly $1.2 billion every year. All major companies are represented in Tamil Nadu, including Foxconn, Motorola, Nokia, Flextronics, Samsung, Dell. Upstream ecosystem and the downstream ecosystem are very great consumers of the electronics sector, and therefore the system is very, very vibrant. The general manufacturing sector, as is evinced from the largest concentration of industries in Tamil Nadu, we have the largest number of factories here. We exported roughly $2.5 billion of export, and we employ 2.5 lakh people. Which are represented in Tamil Nadu are all for us to see, include Mitsubishi, Komatsu, BHEL, Toshiba, Vestas, Timken, and these all have made Tamil Nadu their home for a reason, because Tamil Nadu supports all of them tremendously. Chemicals in the sector is another area of growth for Tamil Nadu. We are the third in the country, and we produce 6% of the chemicals output. While we are growing at about 15.3%, it shows that there is tremendous potential. With over 20,000 acres of land in Thoothukudi, the southern district is all set to become a petrochemical with logistics efficiency, and several new projects coming up in that area. Textiles and garments, and Tirupur is very for that. We export roughly $6 billion, and we employ 35% of the labor workforce here in this sector. The companies here can see that there is a large opportunity to expand into technical textiles and related sectors as a sunrise sector growth area. The next area of growth is the medical devices and pharmaceutical sector, where Tamil Nadu has a great future and we look for investments in this area. We have about $1 billion of output, but we are growing rapidly and we hope that the state will be a leader in the near medium term. The state is setting up a 330 acres Medipark in Chennai and a bulk duct park also near Chennai with the state-of-art infrastructure. We are no doubt the 5th largest manufacturing state with 400 companies, but we aim to become numero uno here as well. Tamil Nadu has been a land of agriculture and therefore there is a great opportunity here to add value in this sector that will help increase the living standards of farmers. Agriculture contributes roughly 11% to Tamil Nadu's economy and it sustains about 40% of our population. A host of companies are here who have made Tamil Nadu their home because of this excellent quality of raw material and which can be processed and exported. We are the 4th largest state in food processing, and again here we aim to become numero uno in the medium term. Aerospace and defence sector is something which is growing very rapidly in the country, and Tamil Nadu is the 2nd state which has a dedicated defence corridor. We are the first brownfield state to have this corridor. We already have an existing ecosystem of defence production, which you can see in the right-hand side map: Chennai, Hosur, Coimbatore, Salem. Price this vibrant ecosystem, there are a lot of opportunities to invest in MRO, precision manufacturing in these areas. We have a lot of companies present here, and we anticipate that this will be a great growth area in the near future. Renewable energy and manufacturing is another strength of Tamil Nadu, where we rank amongst the 9 global renewable energy destinations. We have a total installed renewable energy capacity of 14 gigawatts and we export a lot of wind blades to US and other parts of the world. We generate roughly 8 gigawatts of wind power. The state is an ideal location to generate renewable energy both by wind and solar installation. All major players again are present in Tamil Nadu, and the upstream and downstream ecosystems provide tremendous opportunity for investors.
I'd like to place on record our thanks to Dr. Neeraj Mittal, IAS, the MD and CEO of Guidance Tamil Nadu, for recording his comments and sharing it with us today. Friends, I would like to inform you, if there are any questions, I would request you to post your questions in the chat box, and at the end of the session, we would have a quick question and answer session. Though the Chief of Material has another engagement and has to leave, we have his leadership team with us, and we also have the other speakers. So if there are any specific questions, we would be happy to take a few questions and have our esteemed experts answer them for you. We will move on to the next item in our agenda. It is my pleasure to request Colonel K.V. Kuber, Director, Aerospace and Defence, EY India, to address us next. Mr. Colonel K.V. Kuber is an alumnus of the prestigious National Defence Academy and the Technical College. Colonel K.V. Kuber, he is super specialized in electronic warfare, and he has conducted operations in Western and Eastern theaters, both in conventional and insurgency environments. He has also been an instructor in the National Defence Academy. He was the Director of Capital Acquisitions Program in the Ministry of Defence from 2005 to 2009. He has handled capital acquisitions of Army, Navy, Air Force, and ICG, more than 500 programs worth lakhs of crores. He founded and established the Defence Offset Facilitation Agency, or the DOFA, in the Ministry of Defence, and was the chief architect of the offset policy of the Government of India since its inception in 2005. He was also the advisor HQ for DRDO from April 2014 to 2015 for technology transfers and offset. Colonel Kuber, he is also the member on the National Committee of Experts for the formulation of DPP 16 and the Dhirendra Singh Committee constituted by the Honorable Raksha Mantri. He is presently the Director, Aerospace and Defence for EY. In this assignment, he handles assignments with MOD on the population of the defence industry corridors besides other engagements. I now like to request Colonel K.V. Kuber to speak on the opportunity radar, the interpretation of the policy and business opportunities. Colonel Kuber, please.
Thank you, Vinod. Thank you, everybody. Bharat Deshe Sainikah, Samudra Navikah, Samprati Pujita, Yeshtra Dhanya Mahashaya, Komal Janani, Namaskara. Ladies and gentlemen, very good afternoon to you. Namaskara. I wanted to bring in the right traditions of India to begin with a few words in Sanskrit. And for my country cousins back in Tamil Nadu, Malay Vanakkam. To introduce myself, I belong to Srirangam in Tamil Nadu, and therefore it gives me great pleasure to speak on this particular platform of the South Indian Chambers. And we are talking about the policies and the policy interpretations. And let's see where we are leading ourselves to. I heard Colonel Ramesh asking a few very pertinent questions towards the end, whether we should take everything on the GEM portal, and should we focus on capability rather than equipment, and how do we bring about synergies between the startups and the MSMEs. So I'll be addressing that as we go forward, but I wanted to begin by saying that we have a great policy perspective. We've got one of the most friendly defense industry policies in the world. And so I think from the policy side, there is less to complain. A recent study of the Britain's Ministry of Defence had predicted that India's defense expenditure is expected to accelerate over the next 30 years to be a leading economy, occupying a second tier, but then China, India, and US are likely to lead the defense-related research and development and further enhancing our own military capabilities. So we are set in very, very good times, and I think the seeds have been laid very well. India is likely to be among the top 3 military powers by 2045, with a projected outlay of $654 billion, as predicted by RAND in one of the reports, and likely to surpass Japan, Australia, South Korea, and so many others. I just want to give you a perspective of Israel, for example. More than 70% of the military capital outlay is directed towards export markets. Collectively, between IAI, IMI, Rafael, Elbit, Ezra, they account for 90% of their exports. South Korea in the 80s, the ROK's defense industry was based on US technology. And Washington's subsequent control regulations made them look inside, and they went into the K-2 battle tank, the K-21 infantry fighting vehicle, the K-9, which we have today, and they have started supplying to us. US, of course, bases its own commitment to R&D on sort of 3 milestones. Milestone A, where they initiate the technology to maturation and risk reduction. Milestone B, initiating engineering and manufacturing equipment and development. And milestone C, production and deployment. This is very similar to the TRL levels that we would have. We have a system of TRL level from 0, we can call when you don't know anything or you don't even have an imagination, and TRL 1 when you start imagining it, and TRL 10 when you actually produce and you're mature with the technology. The status of the Indian defense industry, of course, we have gone through multiple stages of reform since independence. The major one came in 1991, the second one came in 2014. So 1991 was the one when we actually moved away from the reserved sector, and defense sector was placed from the reserved category. It was moved into the licensed category, and around 2005, when we were doing all this DPPs, the first DPP was initiated in 2002. And then 2005, then 2008, then 2009, we had an amendment. Then we came to 2011, 13, 16, and today we have a DAP 2020. So there is a process of iteration, as even Colonel Sri Ramesh was talking to us about. And this iteration is the one which keeps us updated and which takes into consideration the aspirations of the Indian industry. The policy of reservation of equipment to the public sector was just jettisoned in 2001 and 2 when the press note 4 of 2001 and press note 2 of 2002, when it evened up and it actually synergized with the extant FDI regulations. And therefore, at that time, we started with an FDI of 26%, and today we are already at 74% on the automatic mode. So I think we have made very great progress over there. Indian private sector companies have actually matured from solely manufacturing components to undertaking assembly, and today we have L&T producing ships, we've got Bharat Forge producing the guns, we've got Adani's producing the aircrafts, we've got companies like Gopalan Industries who have come into the defense sector, and they're already interacting with OEMs and working for OEMs. So these are some very great. In fact, when I see companies like Gopalan Aerospace, I mean, they started, I would say, afresh, and that's an inspiration for many of us. They started afresh in maybe in about a couple of years ago, and today they're already working with a couple of OEMs, and that is the way we are moving forward. We've got a few aerospace clusters. You see the Adibutla, the Belgaum, Sri City, Devanahalli, and others. And then I'm not talking much on the corridors, because that is something that I've extensively worked on. And as the director EY, I was interfacing directly with the Ministry of Defence in creating the detailed project report for both the corridors, the Tamil Nadu and UP. And we have interacted with both the governments, both the state governments in UP and Tamil Nadu. And therefore, I don't want to talk because there are many people who are going to talk about it. But the point here is we are already thinking in terms of a holistic solution towards defense production, and that is something that's very good. So if you see the way the budget has been swinging us, we are talking about a capital outlay. If I were to talk about something like 93,982,000 in 2018-19 to about 1,13,734 in 2021. This is the capital budget. And when I talk about the revenue budget, we are talking about something close to 2 lakh crores in 2020. That is the present one. And about 185. It started with 185 when it was in 2018-19. So when I see the breakup of the procurement, domestic versus imported, the last 3 to 4 years, I could probably say that there are about 162 contracts that have been signed with Indian vendors. 96 have been signed with foreign vendors. And the equipment contracted during this period includes helicopters, missiles, shallow water crafts, torpedoes, bulletproof jackets, aircrafts, rifles, artillery guns, etc. And when I see the imports, we have something, we are talking about imports of 13,412 million from 2015 to 19. And I see here, when I see actually between France, Israel, Russia, United States, when I try to make a small comparison, we have been importing mostly from France about 1,600 million, Israel about 1,900 million, Russia about 7,500 million, United States about 1,200 million. So we have been sort of importing, and our import ratio, in spite of all the policies, in spite of all the procedures, we are struggling to touch the 35% mark. So the indigenous content is still around the 35% mark, and we are struggling to break that barrier, and we are still importing more than about 65% of our needs. The defense production on one side has been increasing, and this is a very interesting statistics that I'm going to give you. When you see, I'm going to tell you from 2016-17, when the defense public sector units were producing something like, I mean, including the ordnance factories, something like about 54,000 crores, and in 2019-20, it still remained around 54, 55, 56,000. Whereas the private industry, which started around, let's say, 14,000 crores, has come up to something like 17,350 crores in this period. See that still the private industry is not catching up in terms of the of production. That is simply because they don't get the orders. And there are still some areas where the orders are going on a single tender basis to the public sector. As far as exports are concerned, there is a reversal here, a role reversal, I would say. The total exports in 2016-17 was around 1,500 crores, out of which the DPSUs were exporting 1,300 crores. The private sector had a mere 200 crores. When you see 2017-18, it was total was 4,600 crores. DPSUs remained around 1,500 crores. The private sector came up to 3,100 crores. And 2020, where we have the full figures, out of a total of 9,000 crores, the DPSUs is a mere 900 crores, and the private sector is about 8,000 crores. And that is the contribution of the private sector. And what it actually indicates to us over here is the opportunity is over there. The question is, are we a part of the opportunity or not? I always keep saying this in many of my talks. It is like, the DJ is over there, he's playing loud music, the dance is on, the dance floor is on, it's full. Are you a part of the dance floor? So if you want to go and be a part of that dance and music, you need to dress up. And what it means for a defense industry to dress up is to get the certifications done, get their quality assurance done, get the product in place, get the processes in place, keep the technology intact, get the technology required either for the manufacturing technology or for the process technology, and there you are. You're part of the music, you're part of the game. So we have a very transparent process. And I think the process has been improved. The defense procurement procedures have been improved every time. And we have today a process which got an RFI, a request for information, to RFP, to trials and things like that. It's a very, very well laid out process. There are multiple stakeholders. You just cannot catch hold of one stakeholder and say, go on. And that's where I come to that point. Can a single window system, when Colonel Sri Ramesh was asking this question, I don't think it's possible. There are multiple stakeholders in the system. There is a user, there is a trial unit which is independent of the processing, independent of the GS evaluation. There is a person who makes the RFI, there is a person who releases the RFP, there is a person who conducts the trials, there is a person who evaluates it, there is a person who does the quality, there is a person who does the GS evaluation, and then there is somebody else who takes the decision. So we have a very good process, very complicated process. I think it's a process, one of which we used to call it as passing the baton. I see that General Subramanian is here, and we used to discuss a lot during the experts committee discussions when we were formulating the 2016. The entire idea is of passing the baton, and once the TEC is over, you pass the baton to the next guy, and then it carries on. Now, coming to offsets. There are many people who have this perception that it is slowing down due to the DAP 2020. But let me give you some figures. Today, totally, we have about 56 contracts with $13 billion signed. US is leading with about $4.5 billion. Boeing about 3.85, BAE about 221 million, Lockheed Martin about $1.2 billion. Boeing has got 225 suppliers today. They are doing a sourcing of close to $1 billion every year. Lockheed Martin has got 246 suppliers. They are doing about 600 million exports from India. France has got overall about $5.3 billion. Dassault themselves have got about 4.1 billion. MBDA about 720 million. Thales about 470 million. Nextra 21 million. Israel has got about a couple of $1 billion between IAI, Rafael, Elbit, El-Isra, Elta. Russia has got about $800 million. In the pipeline, we've got Hanwha, Caracal, Raytheon, add another $2 billion. So if I add this $2 billion to the $13 billion, we're talking about $15 billion, out of which only about $4 billion have been expended. As of today, there is a backlog of $2.4 billion, which accounts to the contracts that have been signed in the year of the Lord, I will say 2008 to 2013-14. And when we take the recent ones, then we have close to about $1 billion every year for the next 10 years. So that's the opportunity that you need to tap. But then you need to dress up. Coming to the opportunities in terms of indigenization, you should visit this website called Srijan, where the MOD has come out very openly and they've put out what all they're importing, what all the DPSUs are importing. Earlier, people like me used to call the DPSUs as conduits for the foreign OEMs to come in. Because you place the order on the DPSU goes and imports from outside, and then they put a stamp and then they shove it into the army and armed forces. But that figure is today available to you in the public domain. So what does it mean? The DPSUs are now inviting us to come and say, this is what we are importing because it's not available. Can you make it? So here is an opportunity for the Indian industry to proactively go search that website of Srijan, find it out and make that. Now, we have, two major policies. One is the national policy, which says any RFP less than or equal to 200 crores will be only for Indian companies. So there is a very great opportunity over there. Most of the revenue procurement and quite a few of the capital procurement in the armed forces do fall under this category, which are under the powers of the service chiefs. The process is faster, the decision is faster, the opportunity is great. And the DAP also provides that anything less than 100 crores will be reserved for the MSMEs. All that they are saying is get at least one more guy for the sake of a competition. Unfortunately, we are in the era of competition. We are in the era where we have to, we talk about L1. We have not yet graduated to the level of T1, although in some cases we do. Very selectively, we do that too. But in principle, we are going to follow the L1, and therefore we are talking about a multi-vendor situation. We are already talking about an FDI of 74% under the automatic route. This again calls for great relationships that you can have with your foreign OEMs and bring them inside. I remember Kal Ramesh talking about how do you integrate startups and MSMEs and all that. Here is the game. The Ministry of Defence has changed the game, the rules of the game over here. So they have something like something called as the IDEX. IDEX is all about innovation. It's an opportunity where you can go proactively suggest to them and say, this is my innovation, this is what I want to do, and this is useful to you. They give technology challenges in the IDEX. Something close to DARPA. I won't say it's as good as DARPA, but yes, we are reaching there. And we already have the 4th round of IDEX challenges finished just about yesterday. And there is a lot of funding that's going on through the TDF, the Technology Development Fund. And therefore, we've got some excellent companies down there. And one of them I know is SpaceX, which is doing some excellent job. I'll say some job of a confidential nature, which the armed forces really want. And therefore, we've got these companies, like there is a company called Taurus, a startup called Taurus, which is doing this. So there are companies over there which are coming up with innovative ideas, coming and showing up to the armed forces and doing that. So therefore, the opportunity is great. The next big thing which is happening over there is the Make-2 projects, which is industry funded. There are more than about 36 plus 13, about 49 projects which are already going on. Just to name a few of them from the Air Force, shafts and flares, air-to-ground rockets, 125 kg bomb, IRST, then for the Army, 125. So I've got the entire list over here. But the point is, We have already reached the stage of the project sanction order in more than about 8 of them, which means we are talking already in terms about some 3,000 crores in terms of orders that are being placed to the industry in a short span of time of 2 years. Air Force indigenization has come out with a wonderful website. In fact, hats off to AVM Ramakrishnan. He has come out with his website where you can actually, the entire indigenization of the Air Force is updated, and he's giving you a cumulative list from the time of inception. If you see that, you'll get inspired. You'll find, there are so many opportunities of that. MiG-29 spares for MiG-21, spares for everything. There are a lot of spares which are coming on under the revenue route, and a lot of innovative items coming over there. So it's a good thing to talk. It's a good thing to talk about it. There is a great opportunity in raw materials. Aluminium. Just to give you an example, we are importing more than about 14,000 crores every year. So what are we importing? We are still importing aluminium. We're still importing steel. We're still importing super alloys. We're importing titanium. We're importing copper and nickel alloys. We're importing tungsten, ceramics. So is there a need to stop this? I think very much. The global turnover for let's say aluminium is about 47% of the global turnover, with a value of about $25 billion. Steel is about 21% with $10 billion. Titanium is 13%, about $21 billion. Super alloys 10% with $30 billion. This is the opportunity that we need to invest in things like super alloys and all that. When we talk of the small industries, what do the small industries do? Small industries need to interface with the large industries to begin with, and interface with the MOD directly in the Make 2 and Make 3 projects as suggested by the DAP 2020. Participate in the Innovation and Defense Excellence Awards. Participate in the technology challenges. And most importantly, interface with the OEMs and create a second tier of revenue for yourself and be a part of the global supply chain. There is a lot of outsourcing that has started from the DPSUs and the ordnance factories. There is a mandate by the MOD on the DPSUs and the ordnance factories to do outsourcing. And therefore, that is another very good opportunity for us. But then we'll have to go through the RFI, RFP route and be a part of the supply chain of our ordnance factories and DPSUs. Today, we are producing all types of missiles. If you talk about the Akash, that's already on export. I mean, it's very much poised for export. The BrahMos is being poised for export. Your ships are being poised for export. So there are so many things happening over there. So you just have to be a part of the supply chain of BrahMos, and you will see the next 2, 3, 4 years, you will not be able to handle the orders that come to you, even if you're a small supplier. So the question is, how do we make use of these policies to our own advantage? How do we take advantage of these policies and step into the MOD system, break the bureaucracy over there, and say, yes, I am also here ready for you? Let me tell you, the bureaucracy is very nasty. The process is very bad, but the people are so good. You just have to go there and say, I'm here, I want to break the system, and they say, please tell me, I'll help you do it. So here is a bureaucracy which is wanting to help you to break into the system, which is wanting to expand the production base. We are talking about a production of something like 65,000 crores today, and we are looking at 1,75,000 crores in the next 4 years. How does it happen? It happens only when more number of defense production units, they come into the system and and take advantage of the policies and procedures and be a part of the system, be a part of the global supply chain, do exports, supply to our armed forces, and there you are. So how does self-reliance really work? So in 1999, USA denies GPS services to India in the Kargil war. A few years later, in 2009, there was sudden switching off of GPS services by US, which caused a failure of the BrahMos missile test. Not many of us are aware of this. In 2020, India has bounced back and comes with its own GPS system recognized by IMO and is better than the GPS in terms of its accuracy. That is self-reliance. Where you now start, you say, okay, this is a challenge and I'll do it. When I was in the army, I'm talking about the year of 1992, 93, when we were formulating the GSQR for Samyukta, the Indigenous Electronic Warfare Program, and we were at one time depending upon the US for many of the components, and then came the sanctions. The way the DLRL, between DLRL, Bell, ECIL and the army, the way we swung about in the market and found small little vendors for small little things, antennas, supply. I mean, you just have to throw a challenge and the Indian industry is there to take it. And let me tell you, the Indigenous Electronic Warfare Program, Samyukta, is a classic example of it. As the commanding officer, I had inducted the system and I'd done the trials in Operation Parakram. And I'm very proud to say it's one of the best electronic warfare systems in the world. And I can also tell you the amount of information that we receive. I used to say with confidence, let this commander of 14th Division of Pakistan sneeze, and I'll tell you when he sneezed. I'll tell you where the mines are. I'll tell you where the minefield is. I'll tell you how they have drawn up their defenses. I'll tell you where their vehicles are. I'll tell you where their ammunition depots. I'll tell you how much water is flowing into the nalas. So we have reached a level where I think we are very, very good today. We are not talking about big things. We are talking about aero engines. We are talking about MRO. We are talking about critical technologies. We are talking about foundry in A&D. We are talking about so many things. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, I must tell you, there is a stimulus package. As I conclude, I just want to throw up a couple of things. There is a stimulus package for MSMEs, which comes with a collateral-free automatic loan, subordinate debt for stressed MSMEs, fund of funds, GST on MRO, reduction of CGST rate on MRO services. The DAP 2020 is itself is talking about your raw materials, the military materials, MRO and things like that. You talked about the defense production and export policy. I talked about the 35,000 crores that we need to export. There is a target. Bifurcation of the capital budget. Today, the Raksha Mantri has allocated 52,000 crores only for Indian RFPs. The 101 items, the 108 items of the DRDO, the FDI policy, press note 4. I think we are in very good times, and I'm sure Tamil Nadu industry, like somebody else was also saying, I think we are a brownfield. The capability existing in Tamil Nadu. I've been to all the industry associations out there. I've been to Tansia. I think somebody is speaking from Tansia a little later. I've been to Tansia. I've been to Hosur. I've been to all these places, and between Trichy, Madurai, industry is great. Somebody talked about textiles. I'm telling you, the future is in technical textiles. The entire future of the armed forces will be in technical textiles, because we're talking about personal equipment. We are talking about armoring of the helicopters. We are talking about camouflage nets. We are talking about clothing, extreme cold climate clothing. And we are talking about, everything. The technical textiles by itself is a very great subject. I think it draws a great synergy in the areas of Salem, and where we are the largest exporters to the world from here. So thank you very much. I think it's been a pleasure talking to you all, and I wish the seminar a grand success. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel Kuber, for your invaluable comments and sharing your thoughts. Thank you so much for your address. Friends, we've had quite a few questions from participants requesting us how to partner with the Indian Navy or how to supply to the Indian Navy. We already have Captain Rajiv Banerjee posting his information on how the indigenization, the units that are in charge, and the contact information. I would now like to request Captain Suguna Kumar, to briefly share how the MSME and the industry could work with the Indian Navy and provide few information in this regard, please. Captain Kumar.
Yeah, good afternoon, one and all. As far as as the indigenization requirement is concerned, as our chief guest, Vice Admiral S.R. Sharma has already brought out that we have a published document on indigenization requirement of systems and equipments under various categories. The document name is Swavalamban, and this document is available on web portal indiannavy.nic.in. That is as far as the requirement is concerned. Now we broadly have two types. One is the equipments and system, and the second indigenization requirements is the space and components. To address these requirements at headquarters level, we have a directorate called Directorate of Indigenization. That is where from now I am speaking. And we have got satellite units, indigenization units, one east and indigenization unit west. That is in Visakhapatnam and Mumbai. The major systems, equipments, the indigenization is steered from the naval headquarters, that is Directorate of Indigenization. Whereas the requirement of indigenizing assemblies, sub-assemblies, components, and small equipments, they are steered by indigenization unit east and indigenization unit west to meet the requirement of ships and submarines in eastern seaboard and western seaboard respectively. The contact details already Captain Bhattacharjee sir has already forwarded his contact details on the chat. The same details are also available in the Indian Naval website indiannavy.nic.in. And the requirement of the space and components, it's a continuous process. So as and when the requirement arises, both indigenization unit east and west, they take up this indigenous requirement and it is put on the government e-portal. The requirements are put, and it is basically, and you can have a registration with the respective indigenization unit and take up the indigenization activity. And whereas the major system is concerned, that is steered by Director of Indigenization, and there are professional directorates who specifically looks after electrical systems and electronic system and marine engineering system. And you can your company profile can be emailed to one of the email IDs which is I mentioned in the web portal. What we do is we will go through your company profile and we will send it to the respective directorates in the naval headquarters and the field units as well. So based on your company profile and as and when the requirement arises, those directorates will contact on email, and whomsoever we are forwarding the details of the companies, we will also inform the contact person through that email. I think, Mr. Vinod, I think I have answered. If anything else need to be added, I will be more than happy.
Yes. Thank you so much, Captain Kumar. You shared the process as well as the way forward, how the industry, specifically the MSME, can work with the Indian Navy. Thank you so much. Friends, we'll move on to our next session. So far, we've been talking about the general policy framework and the new policies that have come in place. Now we would move on to talk about Tamil Nadu. How Tamil Nadu is a potential investment destination for defense and aerospace sector, and what is the way forward? What is the road ahead? So to help us in this journey, to take us forward to the next session, we have Mr. Vijay Kumar, who will be the moderator for this session. Mr. Vijay Kumar is known to most of us gathered here today. Mr. Vijay Kumar wears several hats. He's an economist, he's a business facilitator, he's an industry leader, he has advised people. He was for quite some time working as a group economist and the head for the Murugappa Group. And for over 22 years, he was the chief representative and director for the Netherlands Enterprise Agency. And now he works as the advisor for India entry and international affairs for SAS Partners. So without further ado, I would like to request Mr. Vijay Kumar to take charge and lead the panel discussions. Vijay, please.
Okay. Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. I think it's been a wonderful inaugural session. We had a lot of very interesting speakers, very interesting presentations. And I think Colonel Kubar, who spoke last, was extremely inspiring. And the whole idea of this second session is basically a panel discussion where we have some very interesting people in the panel. We have a gentleman from France, Mr. Vincent Gori, who's an aerospace engineer, and also from the group of French industrialists on aerospace. We have Dr. Udyant Malhotra, CEO and Managing Director of Dynamatic Technologies. We have Lieutenant General A.V. Subramaniam, who is advisor to Lakshmi Machine Works. And we have Mr. Suresh Lakshman Swamy, Head of Sales at Simra Production Engineering, part of Segula Technologies. Last but not least, we have Mr. Vasudevan Srinivasan. Mr. Srinivasan has come to represent the small scale sector because Tanstia could not attend, though they were supposed to be part of this. We will begin with each of the panel members giving a short 5-minute description about themselves and their companies and their activities. After that, the panel discussion will begin. And I'd like to start first with Mr. Vincent Gori, please. Could you introduce yourself? Mr. Vincent Gori?
Yes. Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kumar. I would like to participants of the roundtable with me today. I know Toby, we've had the occasion of meeting some years ago. And I know also Suresh, Lakshman Sami, and also Sudarajan, who we had the opportunities to meet in the past. So I would say briefly about me that I'm working for GFAS, the French Aerospace Industry Association. I've been interacting with India for quite some time now because I was based in India for Safran at one point of time. GFAS is we have 415 members. Among these members, big groups, large groups such as Airbus, Dassault, Thales, and Safran, for example, but also an MBDA, but also mid-size and SMEs company. And we try to develop the presence of French companies in India and the development of bilateral relationship with Indian companies. We have a close relationship with CII, SIDM, and SICCI as well. And we had interactions also in the past with ADAT for Tamil Nadu. So as it is today, there are some 60 French companies who are present in India. I mean, from the aerospace sector. They are in different parts of India. There are some in Tamil Nadu as well. And we are looking forward to be more present, and maybe we'll have the opportunity to come back to that later on when we go in the matter of the presence, or the exact reason for presence of what we do.
Thank you, Mr. Gori. Could I now ask Dr. Udyant Malhotra to give his presentation? Dr. Malhotra? Dr. Malhotra, can you hear me?
It was a little complicated. You had muted me and my mute button didn't work. So I had to go and unmute myself off your system. So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure to be on this panel. I serve as the Chief Executive Officer of a company called Dynamatic Technologies Limited. We are headquartered in Bangalore, but we have manufacturing plants across southern India between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. We also have manufacturing plants in UK, Germany, and the United States, but we're an Indian company. I'm an entrepreneur and a professional CEO, so I lead the company, but also I'm a large shareholder. Our company started 4 decades ago. I've been working here for the last 35 years. We had a small business making hydraulic gear pumps that used to be really for tractors. And around 1990, when the Soviet Union collapsed, we read about how the Indian Army was having difficulty in getting hydraulic parts for the battle tanks, both as spares as well as for our production line in Awadhi. So we started and we developed these products. We developed all the major systems for the Arjun hydraulic systems. And then we started building aerostructures with the DRDO for the Lakshya. We then partnered HAL with development of the IJT and then became the largest private sector partner for them. We make 1/6 of the Sukhoi airframe. We make the main fuselage for the Tejas light combat aircraft. And as we globalized, we became a global super tier one. We are a sole supplier to Airbus for all the flap track beam assemblies that lift the aircraft up into the sky and bring it down, as well as major structures for Bell helicopter, as well as Boeing military, Boeing defense systems. So we're really a company that designs and manufactures highly engineered products. We're very privileged to be talking on this platform today because our operations in India, where we originate from, are entirely across the southern part of India, which is Chennai, Coimbatore, and Bangalore. And I'd love to share our experiences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Malhotra. Indeed, it looks like a very interesting company, and we seem to have done a lot in the aerospace and especially in the manufacturing sector. And we'd definitely be interested in your views on a number of issues. Can I go to our next speaker, Lieutenant General E.V. Subramaniam from Lakshmi Machine Works?
Good afternoon to everybody. And the platform with people like Mr. Malhotra is absolutely interested in aerospace and defense products. People are here. At this picture, I'm now associated with a machine work, so I should talk to I had been in the acquisition system of and I had been involved with the policy making before joining the Lakshmi Machine Works as an advisor. Lakshmi Machine Works is one of the well-known engineering entities of southern India. Is centered around the city of Coimbatore, the tier 2 city in the state of Tamil Nadu. In 1960s, immediately after our independence, when engineering industries were just about taking roots, at that point in time, closing India was one of the clean challenges that it was obviously waiting to be taken. And the Lakshmi Machine Works, the forefathers who founded this, Mr. GKD, as he is known as Devrajulu, he worked with the government and then established a facility here with a Swiss cooperation to manufacture yarns for the clothing. And for manufacturing that yarn, we're not just simply into that we manufacture yarn, we manufacture the machine which manufactures the yarn. And we do an end-to-end job of that. And once we started doing this textile machinery in the 60s, around 80s, we expanded into making CNC machine tools. The Lakshmi Machine Works machine tool division started after it started. That is considered as one of the pioneering machine tool division in the country, and we contribute significantly to the machine tool division supplies some very critical tool solutions for defense manufacture, particularly for the ordnance factories and the defense PSUs. To support the textile machinery and also the machine tool division, a foundry was started. That foundry now has expanded and provides major castings to Bharat Earth Movers Limited, which includes not only the earth moving thing, but also many defense system related foundry work is also done there. In the last about 15 years or so, one of the related organization of LMW entered into the space business, because we talk about aerospace. It went into the space business thanks to the interest of Indian Space Research Organization. That one gave a kind of a motivation for the complete LMW group to start the Advanced Technology Center, which began in 2010, primarily focused on aerospace, large structures for aerospace. As of now, we supply to major defense customers, DRDO laboratories, and also we supply to some other foreign OEMs. So of now, LMW, with all its units located in Coimbatore, with a sustainable ecosystem also built around here, linked up with many MSMEs here. And as it is very well known that Coimbatore is the home for multiple number of very vibrant MSMEs working along with them, we now have a very viable ecosystem to contribute towards the Tamil Nadu Aerospace and Defence Corridor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Suresh Swamy, Head of Sales and Production Technologies, to give a technology presentation about this company and what they've been doing. Mr. Swamy?
Good afternoon. This is Suresh Lakshmanasamy. Can you hear me?
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank SAS Partners and the Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry for suggesting me to be part of this panel discussion. Myself, I have a double degree, like I have studied in India and then in France too. So I'm holding a master's degree in mechanical engineering. I've been always working in France into the aerospace domain for like almost 30 years now. I do also have some experience of working with India. I've been an entrepreneur in France and in India, like in Tamil Nadu specifically. I was having an engineering services company, which was created in 2002. And then I had been the project director for creating a joint venture in Belgium. The name of this company is Squad. It was a joint venture between Acres, Aubert & Duval, French company, and Sedforge. I had been working for Sedforge at the time. Squad is a company where we have invested $15 million. It's a company specialized into the forgings for the aerospace domain. So we have invested in one of the biggest hydraulic press even today, I think in India, about 10,000 tons capacity. And 2018 and 19, I was in India for Regular Technologies. for which I am working today. So Sigla Technologies is about 13,000 employees worldwide company. It's an engineering services company globally. We are present in 32 countries, and we are into different domains: automotive, aerospace, energy, and rail. In India, we do have a presence in Chennai and Delhi. Mostly in Chennai, we are into the engineering services. And globally in aerospace, we have almost like 1,200 employees, where we have the manufacturing facilities in France and in Morocco. We do have the production services, and we do also have a big setup for the MRO activities into the military helicopters. So this is about myself, and what I would like to hear or discuss with the panel members would be regarding sort of technology transfers or whatever the MRO related activities for military helicopters like Lama platform in India. I would love to discuss these subjects with the panel members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suresh. I now request Mr. Vasudevan Srinivasan, who is Director of Pioneer Cornerstone and Cladding Private Limited. Mr. Vasudevan, could you please give your presentation?
Yeah. Good afternoon to all. Myself, Vasudevan. I'm office bearer, Tanstia, as well as Managing Director of Pioneer Coldstone Cladding Private Limited. We are into manufacturing of polyurethane insulated panels for Coldstone Cladding. Earlier, Mr. Neeraj Mittal, IAS, explained about the capabilities of Tamil Nadu. Having 3,000 large factories and 40,000 mid-sized factories, Tamil Nadu definitely one of the leading manufacturing state. 18% of India's factory and 15% of industrial output, as well as #1 state in leather and auto industry, and GDP of about 18 lakh crore, which is the second largest in the country. Even during this tough pandemic period, the multinational companies who believed in Tamil Nadu and coming here for investment as a result, over 40,000 crores of new investment attracted by the state recently. This is a great achievement by the state government. Having said that, as you are aware, MSME generates huge rural employment, as well as in Tamil Nadu, having over 40 lakh of MSME units, which creates 1.2 crores of employment. The state government has taken various measures to support MSME, and the single window online system is a much appreciated move, which helped many small and micro companies. Also, the change of land classification to online shows the aggression towards the years of doing business by the state government. Myself, representing Tamil Nadu Small and Tiny Industries Association, TANSTIA, which is an apex body of MSME associations in Tamil Nadu, is in serving for over 65 years and bridging the government and MSME sector on policy matters. Also closely associated with state and central governments on various projects and policies, closely associated with the projects taking the policies throughout the state. There are about 160 associations are affiliated to TANSTIA, like a district association, industrial estate associations, product-wise manufacturers association, etc. That's why we call TANSTIA as an apex body of MSME associations in Tamil Nadu. The Tamil Nadu Defence Industrial Corridor comprising Chennai, Tiruchirappalli, Coimbatore, Salem and Hosur was announced by the Government of India, aiming to create new production facilities and promote clusters with the necessary testing and certification facilities, export facilitation centers, and technology transfer facilitation, etc. Although the corridor was inaugurated on 20th January 2019, the key projects are yet to take off. Apart from Coimbatore, all other nodes are lagging behind in creating incubation and testing facilities. The Defence Innovation and Atal Incubation Center, inaugurated in Coimbatore recently, is a state-of-art facility dedicated to defence corridor. These type of facilities are imperative to achieve accuracy in production capabilities and reduction in tolerance levels. TANSTIA is ready to extend our support in creating such facilities in Chennai in coordination with other stakeholders. We are sure this will be a great opportunity and a game changer for the MSME in Tamil Nadu, as the central government increased the FDI for defence manufacturing to 75%, which we welcome and look forward for the technology collaboration and joint venture opportunities in the sector. So, thank you. Over to you, Mr. Vijay Kumar.
Thank you very much, Mr. Srinivasan. As you've seen, we have an second panel, very experienced panel, both international and Indian, and representing the MSME sector. So I would like to start, since we've heard so much in the first session about the defense, the procedures, the opportunities that are there, and how these can be, exploited. I would like to start with Mr. Vincent Gori from GIFAS. How do the French look at India for defense, especially aerospace and defense in terms of opportunities? So you had a lot of experience with India, and also you represent the number of French companies which are looking at India in the defense and aerospace. What is the perspective of the French with regard to India in terms of investing in India in the areas of defense and aerospace? Mr. Gori? Yeah. Mr. Gori, did you hear me?
I can hear you. Sorry, I need to be unmuted by the organizer.
Okay.
Make sure we don't speak out of turn, Okay, very good like that. What is our perspective regarding India? I would say we, in matter of defense, when you decide to produce somewhere in another country, there's definitely a strategic matter which is taken into account. So first, we consider India, as a strategic partner of our country. That gives us assurance that whatever we do here, when we invest in India, will be well considered by both the French and the Indian government, and gives us visibility in the long term that we will be sure to be able to continue to produce, and also export from India towards the French forces, but also towards the export market, other export market. So this is the first consideration that we have, which is having a background which is solid, which makes us feel that we can invest in the country. Then we have this, of course, to continue in that, we know that we have the same vision globally of the places of our country in the world, of our respective countries in the world. And we clearly understand what it means to be self-reliant. It is one of the objectives also of the French government that we should be self-reliant. And so we understand why India would like to be self-reliant. I heard Colonel Coubert earlier, and I appreciate what he said. And by the way, I salute him because we had the opportunity to meet in the past. So these are, first two considerations. Then we consider the possibilities of producing in the country, the competencies in the country. To that point, I would say there's no doubt. There's a pool of talent in India. Through my personal experience, I started 3 JVs, 3 companies in India when I was, between 2000 and 2007. And I had the experience of working directly with Indian engineers and also, Indian workers. And what attitude, of course, the willingness to improve, always improve. And that's really a key asset, okay? In the past, one of the drawbacks, one of the difficulties of investing in India was somehow the regulation was a bit heavy, okay? Lots of things has been done to improve this aspect. I would salute the fact that now we can invest directly into defense up to 74% in the country. That's definitely an achievement. And when I compare to the first JV we had to, created when we, 2003, 2004, between Safran and HAL. That's, we had to go quite high in the government level to go for 50-50 JV. Now 74% is quite a big achievement. I recognize that. So all these are very positive. There's one thing where we need to see improvement. It's somehow the recognition that in the aerospace sector, at least, the dual approach is very important. Our industry is efficient because we work both in the civil and military domain. The technologies we use in the military aircraft, they go to the civil aircraft at one point of time. And we have, with the civil aircraft, commercial aircraft, we have volumes which we don't have in the military sector. So it's important that the government recognize this aspect. And just upon a bracket, it's the last DAP 2020 has removed the commercial aerospace industrial activities from the offsets. It's not recognized anymore as offset, eligible to offset. I think that it should change. It should come back to what it was earlier. Because in the aerospace domain, we may produce a certain number of aircraft, fighter aircraft, but we never produce as many as commercial aircraft. So we need, to invest in the country. We also want to consider the volumes which we can produce, take advantage of the labor cost in the country. Okay. If you want, I can stop here. And then we can later on come back more if you want.
Just a follow-up question. You see, what happens is that invariably in India, they say that foreign companies are willing to give you the know-how, but not the know-why, because they stop at the know-how, but they don't go to the know-why because they're afraid of their patents and being copied. And what is your experience and what's your perspective on that?
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good point on your side. The know-why actually, it's when you develop something together. When you do things together, when you develop a new product together, so you know why. It's easier to say, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm doing this much, using this material, and so on. If you just transfer and say know-how, then afterwards say, okay, this is the way we do it. Then it's not the same. You don't transfer the same competence actually. Because when we sit together at the same table, we say, we have this issue, how are we going to produce this or develop this component, this equipment? And we have the thought process, the intellectual process, which we share together. And the know-why is easier, it's transferred easily that way. Otherwise, it's very theoretical. It remains very theoretical. That's why, when we, from the point of view of the government, anything which can promote joint development of new product will be beneficial for everyone.
Thank you. I'd now like to go on to Dr. Malhotra. Dr. Malhotra, your company has a lot of done a lot of work in the aerospace sector. I'd like to ask you a very basic question. You see, if you go to aerospace, we don't normally divide it into, it's actually there's a civil aviation part, then there is the defense aerospace part, and there's the space part. There are three very distinct sectors in this. And, if I compare the aerospace sector with the space sector, our space has been tremendously, and has really achieved a lot. If you look at this, the Indian Space Research Organization, whereas the aerospace in terms of defense has been the opposite. Though they are neighbors in Bangalore, they're literally HAL and ISRO are next to each other, whereas ISRO has reached tremendous heights and is respected all over the world for what they've achieved. HAL has not achieved the same level of technology or success in its development. And the civil aviation part, India is now one of the largest civil aviation markets in the world. And it's really growing rapidly, especially at airport infrastructure. Of course, the last 2 years have not been very good for the aviation industry worldwide. But how do you see these three distinct sectors separately and their part?
Okay, so firstly, thank you for that question, Vijay. There's a difference between the way ISRO and HAL have evolved over the years. HAL is actually an extraordinarily rich, technologically robust organization, but as an MOD company, they have traditionally been kept in a way that our defense businesses have been kept in India, with an idea to ring fence them and to keep them as strategic assets. ISRO from the beginning was created with public-private partnerships. HAL has started that over the last 10, 15 years. So it's actually following in the footsteps of ISRO, and now you have a lot of spin-off companies which are successful. And I would actually suggest that Dynamatic actually was given birth to by HAL in a way, because we started as a developmental partner for them. You asked a very nice question to Vincent Gauri just before this about know-how and know-why. I'd just like to share that when I use the word super tier one, I didn't use the word tier one because what we are doing is we are co-developing and developing products for all our global customers. The flap rack beam assembly, which is a class 1 flight critical product, it's what you have under the wings where the flaps move up and down. We're the sole supplier for every A318, A319, A320, A321, and A330 produced on the planet. The original design of Airbus had 200 odd parts per beam. We've just redesigned this. We've done this together collaboratively with the customer, and we've monolithically machined it down to under 20 pieces per beam, per assembly. So a lot, and that's just an example, but it pervades all our businesses. And a lot of this is because we work with very rich, technologically rich businesses like HAL and ISRO for decades. Now, coming back to one of the questions why South India is so particularly rich in this, it's a combination of a couple of things. One is these governments have been very supportive. The southern states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, have been very supportive of the entrepreneurial class, and they've concentrated on education and skilling. So you have educational institutions, you have skilled workers, you have entrepreneurs, and you have an enabled government system out here. I'll just give you a last example of what this really means. On March 24th, 2020, India went into lockdown, which meant on the next day, all our businesses were shut down. Now, we are a sole supplier to Airbus, Boeing, Bell Helicopter. Aerospace and defense across the world is an essential and critical infrastructure, so it was exempted from lockdowns. The only two states that went against the national lockdown and as policy ensured that aerospace and defense was exempted from the lockdown were Tamil Nadu and Karnataka state. And they did this within 5 days. So I have to say this really, if I have to shout from the rooftops, as a private company, we have over 200 small and medium enterprises that are our ecosystem, that support us, which surround us, which feed us with supplies. All of them are across these two states. If even one of them had stopped working, we could have shut down Airbus or Bell or Boeing, and these two state governments stood up, and it's a great enablement for us, for all of us. Thank you.
And thanks very much. That's a very, very interesting comment that you made about how the southern states are actually enablers in this whole process. And ultimately, that's what is required for any industry to grow, or the economy for that matter. I'll now move on to Mr. Vasudevan, Mr. Srinivasan. Srinivasan, you're an entrepreneur. You won many awards for your entrepreneurship, both local and as well as international awards. And you're a member of Tanstia. I would see one of the constant feedbacks that we have at the South India Chamber as well as SAS is that it's very difficult for SMEs really break this iron curtain which the defense industry, which the defense ministry has, the defense establishments have. And, they're always confused as to whom do they move to, whom do they approach, what does the defense ministry want, what does the defense secretary want, how can we enter this? And as a representative of the MSMEs, do you also have the same experience where MSMEs are quite frustrated about this whole process of getting across to defense establishments?
To be very honest, yes, because there are many vendor development programs has been conducted by various departments. However, whatever the programs conducted, the MSMEs is being participated in that. But it will be difficult for MSMEs as such to enter into a defense products and defense supplies because lack of technology. Because unless otherwise there is a partnership with a large company, with technology transfer or maybe with the latest machines available, it is not possible for MSME to start immediately to supply with the defense because the parameters, the quality parameters and the tolerance levels are extremely different from the normal supplies. So as a MSME now, they are very much capable of supplying to ICF and other public sector units. However, in order to achieve, the frequent supplies to defense, there is a technology transfer required. So that should be a, kind of large industry, a foreign company who can transfer the technology so that the MSMEs can, because MSME has the skill. I'll give you a small example. When the pandemic started, India has a huge shortage of the own mask. That time, the mask, facial mask are sold for 30-35 rupees. But once MSME entered into that production, now today you can even see for 3-4 rupees, the masks are available, where we are even exporting now. So this is the kind of, strength of MSME by entering into any segment.
Okay, but Mr. Srinivasan, I'd like to follow up this question because you said that many MSMEs are not capable, but you see the MSMEs here, especially if you take Tamil Nadu, they have done a tremendous job with the auto sector. They have been very successful with the auto sector. They have been supplying components for the auto sector, and all of them are doing extremely well. And it would be my understanding that the defense also requires a lot of small components which are not necessarily high tech. A lot of, maybe for their tanks, for their vehicles, for a number of their artillery, for the ordnance factories, small components which the MSME can make. What do you think about those kind of opportunities?
No, I didn't say that it is not capable. They are not capable. They are very much capable, but provided a kind of technology transfer and fine tuning and right skill development required to MSMEs. Because supply to any public listed companies, large auto companies, or supplying to Ford is entirely different from supplying to a defense sector. Because defense sector, you need the highest quality standards. Because nobody wants our battalion fail on the battlefield, definitely. So as a citizen, as well as an MSME, definitely we need a high quality supplies. So with that consideration, there is a kind of technology transfer with a large scale participation. Yes, it is possible.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mr. Lakshman Swami, again, a very interesting profile. You are from India, you're from South India, but you moved to France. You've been working in France for many, many years. You're also dealing with Indian companies. what is your perspective on Indian companies, especially the MSME sector, working with foreign companies like yours in terms of whether to supply or whether to produce for defense or whether to absorb technology? Mr. Western, can you hear me? Mr. Lakshman Swamy, can you hear me? I'm not able to hear you. Hello? Okay. Hello? We'll move on to Mr. I think we'll come back to Mr. Lakshman Swamy later. Let's move on to Mr. Gauri again, Vincent Gauri. Mr. Gauri.
Is it audible now?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry for the interruption. Yeah, thanks for your question. I just wanted to take the example of the joint venture, which I just introduced in the beginning. Through that example, I think we could discuss about whatever the experience we had working between India and France. So in this joint venture, we were three partners. So ECAS, the Indian company which you all must be knowing very well. Uber and Diwal, which is also a very big company, belongs to the Pyramid. The Setfort was the company for which I was working. So this joint venture was done in the year 2012, and it took like almost 4 to 5 years to set up the plant because there was a huge investment, and the equipments, whatever we were looking for, we were not able to source from India. So the major equipment, the 10,000 tons press, has been procured from China. Like just for procuring that press, it took a lead time of almost like 18 months. From the moment we have decided the technical capabilities and all installed in India and operational. So it was a lead time was very important in this project. And when we have started this project, we know that for aerospace we need all the major certifications, including NetCap for heat treatment and other facilities. So we have designed the plant with all the requirements for going for NetCap and all the certifications for aerospace. And one of the major advantages in this project was ACUS, which was holding the SEZ in Belgaum. So that was one of the positive points for us because, like, for the French partners, it was easier to handle all the administrative or whatever the land or electricity or whatever. It was handled by our partner in India, so it facilitated the things. And so the first components which we took out from this plant was for Safran Group. So it was a critical component. It was already manufactured in one of our plants. So the technology transfer happened from France to India, and we were successful in taking out the first pull-outs from this company. And today, this company's plant is running in 2 shifts. In spite of the crisis, like the plant is doing well. And this is one of the examples that we put forth where, like, if everything is done in a way between France and India, I'm sure that we could do excellent things. This is first point what I would like to put forth.
Hello. Have you finished?
For the moment, yeah, I will get back maybe later on to other comments.
Okay. Mr. Gauri, coming back to you again, France has a history of developing, looking at India in terms of the aerospace and defense sector for many years now. In fact, it was one of the earliest countries to seriously look at the aerospace defense sector in India. And many French companies actually also came to India. Why do you think this happened, and what is your perspective about the future? Do you think there would be a lot of interest from French companies, both small and medium companies, to come to India? And would French companies be looking for Indian partners in the aerospace and defense sector?
Yes, definitely. Okay. You're right to point out that there's been a history together of working together. We, I mean, for the reasons I mentioned earlier, I mean, the fact that we see the world somehow, I mean, we have the same appreciation of the world and the traits that and the stakes which are there in the world. We have, I mean, our interest to India will continue to grow. There was a mention of, for example, I mean, you know the, I mean, Dassault, I mean, they have this offset obligations, and they're producing an aircraft in Nagpur, business jet, and they clearly said to their French supply chain, either you come with you make sure that you have an Indian partner for the parts that we are manufacturing for me, or you are out of the game. So for the supply chain in France, it's clear that India is a key player. I mean, the big groups, Airbus is showing the way also, Airbus, Dassault, SAS, and Safran, and NVIDIA are showing the way to all of them. So, I mean, if you just take one example, I mean, 2 years ago at the Bangalore show, I mean, the French companies, I mean, were the highest in numbers of exhibitors from a foreign country. It's going to be the same again this year, I mean, February, with 26 companies who will be there. And out of them, 20 mid-cap and SME companies. The future development relationship will be at this level also. I mean, it's good. I mean, the big companies, they are showing the way, but we need to develop the relationship with small companies in the supply chain. It's working, and I'm happy to see that it's working both ways, with Indian companies investing in France as well. Not only one way, and we've seen more and more of these examples, and it's the way it should be. We've seen at least some larger Indian groups taking an interest sector and investing directly. And as I see the future, I mean, there will be more, I mean, there'll be, of course, a growing presence of French companies in India, but we see also a growing presence of Indian companies in France and investing in France. It's the way it should be. I mean, it should be balanced.
Okay, but what I'd like to ask you is that, you know, besides the big companies, you know, the Airbus and the others, are there Indian companies that are exporting to France in the aerospace or defense sector? Not the big ones, but to the medium-sized companies. Is there a two-way trade in terms of exports from India?
You mean besides the Dynamatics?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yes, they are. Yes, and we have. I would say I can quote a few companies if you want, like Many Group, like the JVs which were mentioned earlier by Suresh, for example. There are quite a few.
Okay, great.
No, there's no worry with that. If you allow me, I mean, one area where we can explore and develop more would be the aero of commercial aircraft. And the fact that recently the VAT has been reduced significantly for, that will make it easier to do MRO business in India. That's an area we can explore. I'm talking on the civil side, of course, but there can be synergies with the MRO on the defense side.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dr. Malhotra, if you, you see the Vice Admiral Sharma, in his, when he ended his speech, he said two things which struck me. He said, he felt that Indian companies were not that well prepared. He said the readiness was not good. And the other thing he said was that the systems integration about Indian companies. Now, this also goes on to the R&D. In fact, one of the constant messages that have been given by the defense industry is saying that there's virtually very little R&D among the private sector in India to develop locally aerospace and defense equipment, and the R&D is extremely poor. And your company has made a success. The Dynamatics has done well. What is your message on R&D, and how do we get ourselves better prepared and, as this is, better systems integration in this whole sector, in this industry?
Okay. See, firstly, I think there's a very big myth about Indian companies not having R&D. The Indian private sector engineering companies actually invest a lot in R&D, in design. And again, the automotive industry, which is so powerful and pervasive across southern India, is an example from the very small mom and pop type of engineering outfit that feeds parts to a bigger SME, that feeds it to a major company. There's R&D at every stage, and they're very, very competitive. In our case, there's a little bit of karma. I had a hydraulic pump business, and which had gotten into defense, and I was a hobbyist in aero modeling from the time I was 7 years old. So almost by accident, we got into this in a little garage behind our main engineering plant. So right from the beginning, there was a confluence of engineering R&D and a partnership with the Defense Research and Development Organization and the Development R&D Center of HAL. So we, right from the beginning, started before we were even manufacturing aerospace products. We were really an R&D house for aerospace, for the defense industry in India. So there's a little bit of karma there. I think if we have to really make this pervasive across Indian industry, you have to create a market. You have to create a domestic market. One of the reasons why companies in Germany and France, United States, they're able to, England, they're able to create a lot of R&D at the sub-tiered levels for aerospace and defense, is that their customers are next door to them and they're able to innovate for them. And they're able to get that direct feedback loop, which is the challenge in India, because our major aerospace and space companies are really creating the design and just outsourcing to print, and they're not expecting. So one of the advantages, as I mentioned, the know-how, know-why issue, was our approach with our major global customers as a tier one was always to add value to the design and give them suggestions, and they accepted those with testing and everything. And that's how you make that migration. But you really need a marketplace for that and a very close relationship with the customer.
What would you think of, say, developing a common R&D facility? Maybe some on the lines of CSIR, for example, for the aerospace and defense, say in South India, because a lot of those companies, and then, selling that research and development or franchising the patents to the companies who can then go on and manufacture for the defense and aerospace industry, rather than each company doing its own R&D.
I have a disagreement with that idea, because if nobody owns it, nobody will own responsibility for it. So I would rather I would rather say that we must participate. So we have a tie-up. Dynamatic has a formal R&D relationship with IIT Kanpur in the field of defense drones. We have a partnership with HAL and Israel Aircraft Industries for large defense drones. We have a partnership with the CSIR, CSIO for certain other defense equipment. So I think we have a very rich landscape of companies in the CSIR network, the DRDO labs, the Indian Institute of Science, and IITs. So we need our private sectors to go out there, start talking to professors, not wait for the professors to come to them. We go to these institutions, we look for this knowledge, we sell our brand and say, look, this is how we will commercialize this knowledge you have. And that's how we create partnerships. I think you need to get that out to the private companies, especially again coming back because the theme of this conference is on South India, specifically Tamil Nadu. Look at Bangalore. I moved here 35 years ago. I'm not originally from here. It's an extraordinary place with its institutions of learning, the entrepreneurship, the enablement. To me, the next Bangalore is Coimbatore. It is waiting to be unlocked. It's got mountains nearby. It's got a great place for young people to hang out. And you've got this amazing ecosystem of colleges, entrepreneurs. It's a city of entrepreneurship. It can be really extraordinary.
Oh, that's great. That's a very inspiring message that you've given. And I hope that a lot of people who are listening here would take that advice. And as you say, be more aggressive rather than wait for people to come to you. I'll go back now to Mr. Vasudevan Srinivasan. Again, Mr. Srinivasan, we discussed this about the SMEs. Dr. Sai Ramesh Narayan from Pricol, he mentioned certain things which he said were not helping the MSMEs, and one was the outdated procedures of the Defence Department, the lacunae in the systems, and he said the very low volumes that they were sourcing, and the uncertainty in continuity of orders, and a single window system for defence purchases, especially when it's related to the MSMEs. What are your thoughts on these issues?
Well, the MSME, in order to get qualified to supply to defense, that required some kind of R&D and kind of investment. So after spending, some amount of money and time, and once qualified, then again he has to go through the same process of L1, which not give any kind of thing. See, for example, the pre-qualification quality aspect to be the scale for the defense tenders rather than choosing L1. If this is on L1 basis, so much of R&D and the time spent by the MSME doesn't meet the purpose. So that's exactly is the gentleman earlier, he was telling the same. For any MSME, shifting from the normal supplies to defense supplies, that required kind of investment as well as the time. Once he prepared himself ready, then the scale of, the type of tenders and other things need to be changed. It should be the pre-qualification and the quality should be the scale, definitely not the L1. That's where the issue, for the MSME, which they are facing currently.
Okay, yeah, because, that's one of the constant issues with MSMEs is that it's literally like a wall. In fact, we had one question from one of the participants, which I thought was what he says, you see, we make die-cast copper rotors in motors, but you've not been able to identify which defense department to approach and how. Could any one of you answer, either you or Dr. Malhotra? Or he says they make copper rotors in motors.
I do not have a ready answer. Maybe if we can shoot the thing, we can check in Tansia. I can also get back to him if I can have his email. Because definitely I do not have a ready answer for that.
Okay, fine.
Again, I think you just have to go and look. I tell you that I mentioned when the Soviet Union collapsed, I actually read in the Times of India that the Indian Army was having trouble getting hydraulic pumps. And I said, we make hydraulic pumps. It took 7 months. And I found a little place in Delhi called G Block where there was a technical committee on vehicles. We have to go and find the customer. It's just like any other business. There's a MOD, there's a certain procurement. In today's world, the Defense Ministry is putting out a lot of things on the net, a lot of things out in public domain. But I'm saying 30 years ago, it was much more difficult. It's much easier now, but we have to go there and get it. We've got to look for it.
Yeah, because there's also this constant complaint that the defense gives first preference to public sector defense PSUs, and only later on they look at the private companies. There's also been some suggestions saying that the both ordnance factories need to be privatized to make them more efficient and more quality oriented. What would be your thoughts on that?
To whom is
this is to whom?
To you, Dr. Malhotra.
Sorry. So regarding the PSUs themselves are a marketplace for all of us. So while the government, the military, the three forces obviously give a preference, because where will they buy fighter jets? They'll buy it from HAL right now. We don't have a private sector player, but the fact is that HAL itself is a marketplace. So I think at this stage of evolution of the Indian defense industry, for the MSMEs, there's a tremendous opportunity. All the shipyards, all the HAL, ISRO, Avadi, the tank factories, in Hyderabad, so many missile organizations, DRDO, DRDL, Bharat Dynamics. So there's an opportunity for us. And now when we look at a larger scale, the government policies have changed. So they are actually buying major systems now from the private sector. So I think it really depends on the capability. But for a lot of people who are, let's say we are MSMEs, I just want to say this. When we got those orders for the battle tanks, our sales were only 5 crores of rupees a year. I mean, today it's like 1,500 crores. That time it was 5 crores. It didn't stop us. When we were 15 crores in annual turnover, we designed and built the uranium encapsulation system for our nuclear program. So it's never too big nothing is that big that if you can do it and you're unique in that area, you have to go and find the customer, bang on the door, convince them that you can do it, and that will grow your business.
Mr. Gauri, I'd like to get back to you. One of the constant complaints that foreign companies have is that the Indian government's tender procedures are very laborious and very time consuming and sometimes very frustrating and irritating. Is that your experience, or do you have specialists to get through all this?
Can I pass?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Would anybody else like to answer this about the tender procedures and the tender systems, which are very well known for their long documents and continuous changes happening one after?
I think Colonel Kubert would like to answer.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Malhotra.
I was just pointing out somebody had his finger up, but just to make a generic answer to that. Sorry, just to make a generic answer to that, I think one of the things that we need, whether it's a foreign person bidding for a program or somebody in the private sector, at the end of the day, the buyer has to trust a marketplace to give the buyer the best product at the best price. And if we elongate things and procurement for very long, it's very, very difficult for suppliers to remain invested and interested in the business. So I think that's the only way, regardless of whether the supplier, potential suppliers, Indian. I'll tell you, the very first defense contract we won, it took us 17 years to collect our money from the Indian Air Force. 17 years. All right. And it was really painful for us because the contracted spec was different from what the Air Force base wanted. And it was just things that we had to keep iterating. We had bid for a program, we won it, and we had to. So it's a very difficult process of procurement. And I know there are a lot of people from the services on this call. I'm a grandson of a former Chief of Army Staff. It really breaks my heart because this was All this work was never for money. It was just Deshbhakti that we were doing. And we only built a successful business model as we started exporting. Never made money domestically. So we must give the young MSMEs of today the chance to make money, because if they make money, then they'll reinvest in R&D. It's a virtuous cycle.
Okay, great. Okay, one final question, and I'd like all of you to answer this. I want each one of you to tell the participants and the audience briefly, because many of them are companies that are looking to do business with the defense sector in the aerospace and defense sector. What would be your advice for companies that are trying to enter the aerospace and defense market to persist and to stay there, and not get frustrated by or get scared by the number of procedures that are there, or and what would be the best, especially for startups who are also looking to the aerospace and defense industry? What would your advice be to go ahead, to go forward in this whole thing, and especially in the Tamil Nadu environment and the South Indian environment? You can start, Dr. Malhotra.
Okay, again, we're very fortunate to be in southern India. For us, it was knocking on the doors that were closest to us, which were down the road, HAL and DRDO. Across Tamil Nadu, you have, and since this is for Tamil Nadu, we have the tank factory, we have shipyards. Knock on these doors and look for business. If you're an engineering company, go and knock on the doors, understand what they need, start small, and you'll build a good business. That's what we did, and it just grew. Thank you.
Message. Mr. Gauri, what would be your advice, Mr. Gauri?
I would say that you first need to understand your environment. If you are not in the aerospace and sector, there's a lot to grasp before you are able to make a breakthrough. The requirements in terms of, I would say, for example, the requirements in terms of quality are quite high. And so you need to understand what is expected from you in terms of quality. And so this thought process has to be done first to understand that it's a different sector. It's not an industrial sector like any other one. You have, you're going to, the end products have to be very reliable. So, hence the effort in terms of quality. This is maybe one of the first things. And then you have also maybe, the willingness to be persistent. It takes time. It may take time, but then the reward is here. The reward, once you've reached that high level of sophistication of quality, then after, maybe it will also be easier in the rest of your other business.
I think that's an excellent message. Mr. Lakshman Swami?
I agree with Mr. Gauri. Like in the aerospace domain, it always takes time to get the business and to execute it. So we should be very much, patient, and we should pursue. That is one of the major messages. And I would again come back to one of the subjects what I discussed earlier regarding the joint venture. I always find that could be, I'm not telling that is the only solution, but that could be one of the solutions which could help, where there could be good transfer between, say, an Indian partner and a French partner to have the knowledge from one company and maybe other advantages which the Indian company can bring in. That could also help to go faster to giving the results in the years.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen.
Yeah, it depends on the product what we are talking about. Assuming that it's accessories or fasteners kind of thing, I would advise to go through the product well and understand the needs and the demands, from the industry, as well as have the right machinery to work with, to understand the volume also as well. Then there should be a continuous improvement in the way of R&D. For any product, it's applicable to any product. And if the volume is less, it should be a secondary product, not the primary product for any industry, because if the volume is not meeting, then it will be difficult for any MSME to depend on one product. So definitely depends on the volume.
Thank you. And once again, big thank you to all of you. I think this session was not only informative, but also very inspiring because, as some of the major speakers said, look, there's nothing that you cannot achieve, provided you put your mind to it, provided, you really are serious about it and passionate about doing what you want to do. And I think the participants also would have learned a lot from this. And I hope that some of them can approach you for mentorship and advice. South India Chamber of Commerce and Industry and SAS Partners have also decided that we will, this is only the first in a series of such programs on the aerospace and defense, because the industry is so vast and so diverse that we would like to do many more. We're going to do the next one in February, which will be more focused and with a different theme and different dimensions. And we want all of you to participate in it. And a very big thank you from all of us. Now, Mr. Soni will from SAS Partners will give you a thank you address. And we will be sending the report we prepared to all of you, to all the participants in this seminar, so that you get an idea, and you're always welcome to contact South India Chamber or SAS Partners or Sugosha for any doubts that you have. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful session and a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I'm audible now.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for running one. We are witnessing holistic change in aerospace and defense industry in India. The world is witnessing a sea of cheap and long-term impact of hosting and developing this industry ecosystem will be far-reaching. India's inherent competencies in engineering and manufacturing, coupled with soft and hard infrastructure, would prompt processes. Of course, we may have to collaborate with partners in accessing the right technologies and time to market. Tamil Nadu, with its infrastructure competencies, position enter industries in this domain, and therefore the government in attracting and facilitating on behalf of Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry and SAS Partners and all participants and speakers for the session. First of all, I said years in and Navy organizations program. We were expecting to have Mr. N. Muruganandan, Principal Secretary of the Government of Tamil Nadu in this department, but unfortunately, we had a session due to the urgent work. We take this opportunity, more importantly, his support of this of the hospital. You'll thank the and CEO of our for
He got cut off. So, dear friends, I thank each and every one of you for investing your time and taking part in this event. As was communicated earlier, this is just a beginning. We would like to sustain this interactions. The next interaction we have planned in the month of February. We would be trying to bring all the stakeholders together, at the same time continuing in a knowledge focus. So if there's anything, any support, any assistance, any information that is needed, please feel free to reach out to either the Southern India Chamber of Commerce or SAS Partners. We'll be more than happy to help. And we would be taking this forward in other ways as well. We would be talking to the state and central governments, handing them the reports and the recommendations of this event. And we will ensure that there is completion, there is a closure in all the topics that were discussed here today. So with these few words, I thank each and every one of the speakers. I thank the participants, the organizers. I thank each and every one of you. I wish you a good evening, and I look forward to welcoming you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.